Going to begin the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, June 19th, 2012. We'll start with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, can you take the roll, please?
Mr. Galloway?
Here.
Mr. Sykes?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dent?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here. Before we begin tonight's agenda, just a couple things. I want to welcome Carl Creer, who's here from the Boy Scouts. He's here working on his Citizenship in the Nation badge, sitting back there with young Mr. Pullen, who's helping him out. Should be some interesting things to look at tonight. Also, just two other announcements. First off, as we start the meeting this evening, we know that there is a very large fire going on at a business called the Sims Metal Management, which is down in part of the old steel mill, basically a metal scrapyard. The fire has been going on probably since around 3:30 or so. I guess is the first time we got notice of it here in the township. Details are sort of sketchy at this point. Obviously, we're letting the firefighters do their job, which is difficult enough. You know, we're not sort of bugging them to give us updates. But we do know it's a lot of alarms, a lot of firefighters working very hard, and we obviously hope and pray that everybody comes home safe and sound, that the fire can be extinguished safely, and that we certainly, if there's damage to property, that's one thing, but that's, you know, we don't want any damage beyond that. And unfortunately, as people read in the newspaper today, there was a young man, 24-year-old, volunteer for the Marsville Rescue Squad, who passed away suddenly yesterday. Kevin Maffetone was a volunteer also with Levittown Farrells Hills Rescue Squad. Both of those companies, Marsville and Levittown Farrells Hills, cover Falls Township. And it's obviously a tragic, you know, situation. The young man just, you know, has a very sudden heart attack and just passed. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all the people that worked with him, his friends and family. And I'll ask for a moment of silence, please, in memory of Kevin Maffetone. Okay, thank you very much. First item on our agenda is a public comment. Mr. Gray, would we be able to get the sign-up sheet? Is it up here or no? Mr. Gray's a little rusty. It's been a little while since we've had a meeting. Thanks. It's all right. Okay, first item on the agenda, or first name on the list, rather, is Roland Kenny.
Again, in your prayers, remember we lost Dust at Dawn also since last time I seen you. He does the township grass cutting. And unfortunately, we lost him. I knew that man for 30 years, even though I've only been in this township 10. So, welcome back, young man. You all over your sickness? You wasn't here last time.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. It's been so long I didn't even remember.
I know. At your age, it starts to lose it. Next. You said something last time I did see you. Said, don't touch the trees or something. Meaning down on Pennsylvania Avenue, the ones I cut down. Well, I replaced them with 10 beautiful trees. Got a couple of neighbors across the street when I was looking at them. Said, why didn't you do the whole thing? I said, your people didn't want it. What, one man or two men? I said, you didn't want them. I was willing to do it, but It covered the whole houses. Now the trees are high enough, they're starting to hide the houses. That's what I thought they wanted, but apparently not. But that ain't my worry no more. I'm not on the board, so you can't come after me for them. And that's about it. We'll have a nice night. Get out of here early. Right, Mr. Gray?
Yes.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you. Mr. Mariani?
This past month, there's been considerable discussion concerning public employee labor agreements and their effect on local government finances. Now, a quick note, J.P. Morgan Chase yesterday warned of public employee pension default, which could mean there's going to be a lot of people in public service that may not get their pension. Bristol Borough, teacher layoff, wage freeze. Bristol Township, as you know, Mr. Galloway, they have teacher furloughs, wage freeze, police layoffs. Now, we even have one township close by, the cost of retirees' health and pension costs exceeds that of their present staff. Now, these situations didn't happen overnight. These situations are the consequence of failure to recognize the need for change to avoid unsustainable fiscal trajectories by these public employee agreements. Now, I want to contrast in terms of our agreements with our workers, who are deserving, by the way, with those people in Falls Township who actually pay for these benefits. Now, the median income for a household here in Falls is $50,129. The average income for a male is $41,200 and $30,117 for a female. Now, employee health care average for a single person is $5,400 and $15,100 for a family. That's if they're able to get health care. Their employee contribution toward these benefits is between 20 and 30%. The unemployment right here in Falls right now is about 7.5. The job growth in Falls is minus 0.25. Now, I have some questions regarding the 5-year agreement that was approved with our public works employees. And there's a lot of questions I have, but time constraints, I have about 6 of them that you could address tonight or at some other public meeting. Now, what was the result of the $500 bonus given to each employee to agree to the health care concessions? That's what we did. I don't know what that is. What is an employee contribution to health care? Do we still have the opt-out clause for 1/2 of the plan? I can give you a copy of these questions, so save you some work. Does health care follow an employee after retirement? Are employees still in a pension plan? And does that include, or does that contain, the COLAs? At what age can an employee here in Falls begin to take and collect his pension? Now, have we made any plans to establish a defined contribution plan versus a defined pension plan? Those are my questions. Now, I know our employees care as much about this township as we care about our employees. That's why we want them to have benefits. And I believe that they recognize the need for a change as to what it's been, what it has to be in the future, so that they can protect their future employment and the future benefits that hopefully we can give them. Now, with an eye to the future, I think at Falls Township, we're going to have to provide future benefit packages that are predictable and, most of all, affordable. And I think now's the time to begin while we're in the process of negotiating several of these things. Briefly, the health plan. The benefits and employee contributions, I believe, have to reflect industry standards. Now, that means we have to go to PPOs. That means they're going to have to make a contribution, or HMOs. Only 28% of all the companies that employ at least 200 people offer health care benefits after an employee retires. A pension, some of the ideas I have on pension, we should, I believe, freeze pension for veteran employees. All new employees coming in should be placed into a defined contribution plan. In that plan, taxpayers should be required to match only the employee's contribution to that pension and only to a determined percentage. And I think we ought to raise the retirement age to at least 62. I don't know if people are going out at 50, 55, I don't know that. Living into our 80s and 90s, it's a killer. I just have one more statement.
Go ahead. All right.
Okay? Now, I believe we have to begin long-range future planning. We have to consider alternative income to expand our tax base. I don't think we've done that yet. I think that's really important because one of these days we're not going to have host fees. We've got to expand our tax base now. Now, if we don't have that kind of planning, I don't know that we're ever going to be able to satisfy the current agreements that we're making with our employees now. So I thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
If Mr. Gray wants a copy of those questions,
Well, actually, I was going to add. Some of these I know Mr. Gray's going to know off the top of his head. Others, if he isn't comfortable, answering right now, that's fine.
I don't expect to get answers right now.
Well, you don't know Mr. Gray very well. I can read. Yeah, it's fine. I could just ask in terms of employee contribution. Now, speaking just with the Public Works contract, the employee contribution that was just agreed to in this recent agreement.
I believe it's 5%.
5%.
Yes.
And the opt-out, I'm not sure what you mean by opt-out. Do you mean?
What we did in Falls Township was benefit. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
The benefit package, I think, was like somewhere around $31,000. And if an employee opted out and decided not to take the 31,
okay,
he got $16,000. So he gave himself a $300 a week raise, a little more than that.
Yeah, there is an incentive basically if you have health care through your spouse, then you don't, or somebody else, you don't, if you don't want to take hours. What's the there is one?
I believe it's in that contract that we just negotiated. I believe it's 50%. That's what it is for the police. That's what it is for AFSCME. I believe it's the same for Public Works.
Okay. Is Public Works, the other question is about post-retirement health?
There are no post-retirement health benefits for Public Works once they leave.
And I know they just switched actually to a defined contribution plan.
It's a defined contribution plan. It's with PMRS.
Okay. So no pension necessarily, or
It's a different setup for PMRS compared to the current plan, which is ICMA, which they used to have.
Right.
The payouts when they retire will be issued a little bit differently than the ICMA payouts will be.
And what's the rule on retirement, when you can retire at full benefits, things like that?
There is an age. I don't know that age offhand, but I could certainly get that for you.
Okay. And typically it's what it is, for most public works. I mean, obviously for myself and Mr. Galloway, as teachers, we know that there's you can retire at a certain age, but you're not going to get your full pension.
Well, that's right.
And
but
that's
you could either invest it and walk away and come back and get it, or you can start taking it at 50 and 55,
right,
and then live to be 90. And you'd be way ahead of the game if you waited until you were 65. So
right.
All I'm trying to say is I want our employees in this township to have the best.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to afford to continue to give that to them
and that is all
in future years.
And I agree. I think everybody up here agrees with you. and I know that's one of the first things we ask, with Mr. Gray is, if there's something we're talking about, the very first question, can we afford that? What's the long-term picture with that? How do we
long-term picture without host fees?
Yeah.
See, I don't have to worry because the host fees will probably be here after I'm gone. But you guys, you young pups, you're still going to be around And if you don't pay attention to me, I wish you long life so you can see what happens when they go away. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you. Andy Dell?
How you doing? Quick question for you guys. Who, the landscaper that does the township facility now, what was the name of that person or business? It was a cleaning company?
Yeah, and they subbed out the work to a contractor, and
Well, that's the point. I guess that's going to be getting to the point of my
yeah,
question.
and I can't remember who the landscaping contractor is. It's a
Doran?
one, huh?
Is it Doran, D-O-R-A-N?
Yes, that is what it is. I knew it was a D, and it was like a last name. I couldn't think of it.
The question is, I guess, why would you have a cleaning service, number one, bid on this project? Number two, then they turn around instantly and sub it out to, obviously, someone they know. And does this person not meet our requirements? The new contractor, do these people have a business license to do business in Falls Township?
Yeah, this was something we discussed when the bids were open. Obviously, it raised our eyebrows to see a cleaning company putting in, and we did do a background check and found that they do property maintenance, sort of, at a lot of other places, mostly business parks, that kind of thing, office buildings. Go ahead.
The name of the company that we make the payment to is CNS Building Service.
CNS Building.
CNS Building Services, but they're not the ones obviously doing the work, because as I drove by, I saw landscape contractors out here
And-
doing the work, but that raised a question to me. I said, why would they not be the ones to have put in the proposal?
With any construction we do, whether it's a road program or anything else, contractors can sub out work. That's something.
Oh,
we
I
have to
saw, don't get
figure
me
in.
wrong, I have subcontractors that I use for things that I don't do, but if it's a landscape project, I'm bidding on it. If it's cleaning a building, I don't bid on it. But I'm curious, do they meet the requirements that the township is looking for, insurance and everything else? Did you pull the sub?
They would not have been awarded the bid if they didn't meet.
I'm not
those
talking about the
criteria.
cleaning company, I'm talking about the subcontractor.
Well, the cleaning company's ultimately on the hook for it. So if the work isn't done, it's the cleaning company who's responsible. And we've already had some issues with them. I know the original time that they went around and did some work, it was not to our satisfaction. And the owner of that company walked around literally from building to building with Mr. Arneo, and everything was pointed out to him how it didn't meet our requirements. And so that was something that was being rectified, or has been rectified.
Okay. The other question I have is, as you drive in and look at the other properties, when I brought up to you about using a black dyed mulch here, the place already looks like the mulch has been down for 2 years. Next year, please consider upping it's not a huge volume of money. I mean, trust me, it's a few hundred more dollars for the black dyed mulch. My next question pertains to the grant you were looking for that Biles Island Park project. I haven't heard. Have we got was it 210,000?
We're not going to know. I think it was till October or something that when those will be. Yeah, right now the process is to apply, to meet with the state, to go over any questions they have. I think it was DCNR it was through, but we won't know. I don't think it's till October if we've got that grant. If we don't get it, then we tried and we can go ahead and do whatever we want. But if we get it, then the money comes in and we can.
But the $400,000 for the engineering, we still have to pay that, correct?
No. No, because the grant was contingent on if we get the grant, then there's.
Then they continue to the.
This is what
Okay.
these are the things we're going to be doing once, if we get this grant. If we don't get the grant, then we can spend less, we can do whatever we want.
Okay. And I don't know if you had talked to Waste Management at all to, like I told you before, maybe go around that and just say, hey, this is what we're looking to have done, and work with Waste Management and maybe some local contractors and say, we want some trails in, this is what we want to do, as long as everything meets Bucks County and DEP and everything else, we could probably save a lot of money by
Right. Well,
going that route.
Yeah, that's something ACT Engineers is doing constantly. They meet with Waste Management all the time to information about the island itself, that we can take their maps, that way ACT doesn't have to make their own.
Okay.
All the background information, all the historical information about what's been done on that site over the past 20, 30 years. So it's constantly ongoing discussions with Waste
Okay.
and those types of things as well.
All right. And as far as going quickly back to the landscaper, are you guys going to check to see if this guy is qualified to be on our properties with the proper insurance and whatnot? Because ultimately, he is responsible. He should be carrying and require the same stuff I have to pay for because he's basically undercutting our bids by $12,000 to $15,000. How he did that is amazing to me. That
Well, I mean, in terms, like, CNS is the company we awarded the bid to.
The bid was awarded to CNS. They, everything that they were required to submit, they submitted. Everything checked out. Any subcontractor that they bring in, we don't have to worry about their insurance because CNS's insurance, CNS's bid bonds, performance bonds, all their bonds are what control here, not a subcontractor. So CNS, everything checked out, everything was fine. They were the qualified low bidder. There was no reason to disqualify them. So under the law, we had to award it to CNS.
I understand why it was awarded. I just think it's almost a slightly uneven playing field because usually when you're putting down mulch, no one gets killed. So their insurance most likely won't be used for anything. So they're using them as basically a cover, and they walk in and might not have to pay the same things that the other qualified landscapers were bidding on. That's my only point I wanted to make, and thank you.
Yep. Those are all the names on the list. Is there anybody else wishes to speak? Seeing none. Okay. Move on with our agenda. Item 2 is consider land development for Kinder Morgan, 1 Center Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes, this is a land development application for Kinder Morgan regarding a fertilizer handling facility expansion located at 1 Center Road, tax map parcel 13-51-1. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Ed Murphy.
Good evening.
Evening.
Some of the board members may recall that we appeared before the board in 2007 to seek land development approval to install the first 2 fertilizer domes located down at Kinder Morgan Bulk Terminals. As everyone knows, Kinder Morgan leases about 85 acres at the KIPC, including the east side of the port. Those 2 domes that were approved in 2007 have been erected and are operating. They each hold about 15,000 tons of material, principally pelletized or granular urea and phosphate. What's in front of the board this evening is a new application for the addition of 2 new domes. The boards that we have up indicate that the 2 proposed domes are going to be located in the immediate vicinity of the first 2. They are of a similar size as the first 2, and they will accommodate the same types of materials that the first 2 do. The materials will be brought in via vessel to the port, and they will be loaded onto either rail cars, principally rail cars, and occasionally trucks for distribution throughout the United States and Canada. The blueprint for the approval resolution that's in front of you as well is very similar to the approval resolution that this board granted back in 2007. Same type of conditions, same type of waivers. And I have seen a draft of that approval resolution. I've had a couple of conversations with Mr. Sullivan during the day today, and I think we're comfortable, if you are, in proceeding forward. Procedurally, it's in the form of a preliminary as final land development plan. And if approved, the project will move forward promptly. The 2 new domes should be operational by the spring of next year, and it would probably involve the hiring of 6 or more new employees to manage the work at those 2 new domes. So that's a summary of the application in front of you, and we hope that the board would see its way fit to approve the plan tonight.
Okay.
Would the board members like to see the plans? So perhaps they could be turned
Yeah.
so the board could see them?
We do. We have them in front of us. The board members.
I'll be happy to
See? Okay.
turn them around if you
All
like.
right. There are several waivers, and as you said, or it's noted here, it's largely the same waivers that were requested. Curbs, minimum 25-foot radius of curvature, width 24 feet for driveways, street trees, curbing, outline survey of the property to be developed, location, width of streets, names, et cetera, for adjacent properties, location size, specific ownership of underground utilities, contours by aerial, on-site survey, exact elevations. Those are all the
Yeah, and they're largely a function of the fact that this is a singular tax parcel of great size. We're focused on just the 85 acres, and I think over the years, Jim's office has received more than sufficient data to feel comfortable in support of the waivers that we've requested.
Excuse me, and the property is owned or leased?
Leased.
Leased, okay.
USS owns the property, we have a lease.
Right. Mr. Sullivan, do you have any issues with any of the waivers being requested here?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members for Mr. Murphy or Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
The waivers regarding the curbs, I think, make sense, and the others about the general information of the property, I think we already have that. The one question I have is about the street trees and whether we've made provision for a donation to our tree fund to have those planted elsewhere.
We didn't the last time, Jonathan, and we haven't made provision for it this time.
I hope we will. That's all I have.
Mr. Dents?
I have none at this time.
Mr. Rocco?
You had one question, traffic planning design. The proposal was a 12-foot driveway.
Right.
They're asking for a 24-foot. It didn't mention curbs.
Now, other way around, your ordinance requires a
24.
24, we're
Yeah.
asking for 12, just to maintain what we already have in the waiver we got 5 years ago. We're going to use the same access that we presently maintain on the site now.
Okay. And Mr. Sullivan, you're okay with that?
I am, and I believe there have been conversations with TPD that they also agree with that.
Correct.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Baker's here, right?
Yeah, Mr. Baker from TPD is actually here for a presentation later on, so if anybody had any questions for him. I actually had an issue, Mr. Rocco brought up the TPD letter, I had an issue with that as well. I'm assuming you've seen the April 18th TPD letter?
Yeah.
Okay. The first three... Yeah, the first three issues that TPD brings up are basically already addressed in the waivers you're looking for. Items 4 through 7 deal more about signage, details on the stop and yield and do not enter signs for the plan, site triangles.
All will comply
and the
items.
guide rail. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. That's
All four?
Yeah.
okay. All right, that's the relatively minor things. I assume that. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, under waivers requested and granted in the document, there are two subsections D, just for information.
Okay.
Maybe that can be, no big deal, but just corrected so it's not
Oh, I see.
confusing.
Right.
I didn't see a letter from the fire marshal. Was there anything he had? I saw it. Oh, I did see it. Never mind. Sorry. I know I didn't.
No, I don't think I was going to say. I don't think I saw one either.
No, I didn't see it.
Our files don't contain a fire marshal letter.
Okay. All right. Other comments or questions from board members? Okay.
No, just the one, in Mr. Sullivan's comments, he mentioned consulting the fire company, the fire marshal.
We're happy to do that. I mean, if he hasn't commented, yes, we're happy to meet him and go over any issue. We have none.
Okay.
He's been fine with the operation for the last 5 years. I'm sure it's not an
Right.
issue.
Right. Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. Any public comment needed? See one hand in the back. Motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I should him with a paperclip.
They're giving us 6 more jobs. How about the contractors putting it up? They from Falls? Going to try to get as many Falls contractors as you can?
Yeah, some of that's still under...
Okay. I say, pass it. 6 jobs is 6 jobs. And then send a message down to Florida.
Any other hands?
Interesting.
Seeing none, motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, so we're looking at a resolution with the waivers being granted. This would be 2012-12.
12.
2012-12. granting preliminary and final land development for Kinder Morgan bulk terminals. Is there?
The motion to approve resolution 2012-12.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question first?
Certainly.
Was there a calculation regarding the waiver of the street trees? Was there a calculation of how many trees we were waiving the requirement to be planted?
I am unaware if there was, Jonathan.
No,
I don't know
I
if
don't-
Jim is.
Mr. Sullivan, was there a calculation?
No, we haven't prepared a calculation for that.
Okay.
I think we should. I don't know how other board members feel, but that's kind of been our practice.
Other opinions, thoughts?
I mean, I'm
That's
happy
been our
to-
practice, but I'm fine with that.
I mean, I'm happy to vote for it, but I would like to see some provision made, but I don't have a calculation, so I don't know what provision to make.
If the board is of the mind, we'll be happy to work with Mr. Sullivan and
Okay.
figure out what that would be and.
If
work out-
Mr. Murphy and his clients are willing to make some kind of voluntary contribution
Sure.
for whatever
We'll
reason.
sort that out. We're happy
can
to
work that out.
agree to work out something with the township staff.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right.
I'll second.
Second the motion. Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You want any of your plans back? Oh, let's recycle it. Here, we save some of the trees that's going to donate back.
That's true.
Item 3 on our agenda is consider waiver of land development for waste gas fabricating, which is on New Bowl Road. Mr. Gray.
Yes. As mentioned, this is for waste gas fabricating, tax map parcel 13-28-88-2, located at 450 Newbold Road. This is regarding a project to construct an addition to an existing warehouse on an industrial parcel. Tonight, representing the applicant is Mr. Tom Hecker.
Thank you.
And members of the board, good evening. Tom Hecker on the behalf of the applicant. Unlike Mr. Murphy, we'd like you to see exactly what we're doing, so we've turned one. I'm sorry he left and didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's a shame.
We're here tonight for your consideration of a request to waive land development, the procedural requirements of land development, for the purpose of considering the approval of an addition to be built to the waste gas facility located on Newbold Road. This particular facility has been in Falls Township since, I believe, 1988. Prior to that, it was located in Tullytown, moved to Falls in 1988, and has been operating and providing jobs in this area since that time. Like every other industry, there was an impact of the decline in our economy until recent times. About a year ago, things started to turn around, maybe it was a little bit more than that, and they went back to operating 3 shifts a day, 5 days a week. And the result of the additional shift, the second shift particularly, they were able to add 15 more jobs to this operation in about a year's time, or a little over a year ago. So all of what brings us here tonight is good. The fact that things have turned around. The company's doing well. They fabricate steel parts, products, just about everything under the sun. Some things you probably don't even know about. I had the opportunity to take a tour of the facility, and Kyle, who is president right here, Kyle Kloman, was explaining how the machines operate and some of the parts that were being manufactured. Some really neat high-tech stuff, and on Kyle's behalf, I would invite you, if you ever want to take a tour, give him a call. He'd be more than happy to open the door for you and see what's going on here. It's really a neat operation. Parts being made for being sent all over the world. The result of the recent turnaround and success is the fact that more equipment has been added, and obviously jobs are added, and space is really tight. So the whole purpose of this request is to be able to get approval to add the addition, which is shown on the plan as 7,400 square feet. The good part about this proposed development, why we think it makes sense to do it as a waiver of land development, is the fact that we're building on an existing impervious covered area, so there's no new impervious that's being created as a result of this addition. It will help to alleviate, some of the tightness that the current operation had by providing that additional space, and that's really what this is all about. We've had the opportunity to submit these plans, have them reviewed by township professionals, attend the Planning Commission meeting, and also do another resubmission. So in requesting the waiver of land development, we're not asking to avoid the review process at all, obviously not, because we've done that and responded to the various comments and worked closely with the township engineer to address the comments that have been supplied to us through Phil Kashner from Showalter, our engineer, who's standing to my left and who I neglected to mention. So we're here tonight asking for your consideration to grant this waiver request so that this building process can proceed in a lot quicker fashion than land development would ordinarily allow because of the procedure that's involved. We've also had the opportunity to receive and review in advance of this evening the proposed resolution. There's very few comments that are left that are outstanding, and the open comments are obviously all will comply items. The resolution does set forth 3 waiver requests. Those waiver requests deal with the planting of trees. We are proposing, as you'll see on the plan, I'll just jump right in front for a minute. As you'll see on the plan, the only place where you can plant along here is this island, and that had been planted. There had been some trees in it before. They've died and had not yet been replaced, so that's going to be replanted. We are proposing the addition of 5 trees, whereas the ordinance would require, I think, a total of 11. We just simply don't have the room, and we're asking for a partial waiver from that because of the not being able to comply with the exact number. There's also a requirement for curbing on both sides of New Bowl Road. On the development side of the road, curbing already exists. We're asking to waive the requirement to add curbing to the other side of the road because that would involve a whole lot more complications, and quite frankly, this owner needs to deal with at this time. And the last waiver request deals with standard request that's made to avoid having to provide features within 200 feet of the site. We believe, based upon our discussions with the Township Engineer's Office, that we've provided enough information that the Township Engineer can see how what we're doing ties in with the adjacent properties. So we've asked for a partial waiver there as well. So those are the 3 waiver requests. And other than that, everything else is a will comply. So we would request your favorable consideration.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to board members to see if they have comments or questions. Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
Mr. Chairman, just the waiver request makes sense to me in terms of the curbs. I think the plan is fine. The fact that this is already paved surface, obviously that I understand that point. Again, the trees, you're proposing to plant, I guess, less than half of what is required by the ordinance. So I'll make the same request that I made in the last plan, that if there could be some kind of contribution made to...
Contribution, or if you'd like, we'd be happy to donate the trees to the township to be planted somewhere else. It's really your call. So
That would be
if
great.
someone on behalf of the township will let us know, we'll certainly comply with that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
The only comment I'm going to have is the same one. There's still no letter from the fire marshal, and it's in Mr. Sullivan's general comments.
But as Mr. Hecker and Mr. Murphy before him indicated, by agreeing to comply with all the comments in Mr. Sullivan's letter, they do have to consult with the fire marshal on the adequacy of the design.
Good enough for me.
And knowing the fire marshal, we'll probably hear a little bit more from him when we submit the actual building plan.
Mr. Rocco?
I have no questions. Thank you.
The only question I have, Mr. Hecker, I know you mentioned, will complying with all the issues in the proposed ordinance. The June 13th letter I have from TPD asks about a truck tracking template has been provided indicating how a WB62 designed vehicle will access the area. However, the template should also indicate how the truck will turn around and exit.
Yeah, we'll resolve that issue with the township traffic consultant.
All right, thank you. And do you have a copy of this, or you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, is there any public comment? I see one hand in the back. Motion to open public comment?
Let me guess who that would be.
There's jobs involved. Pass it.
All right. And Mr. Kinney's comments are that there are jobs involved, pass it. So, all right, so Mr. Sullivan, any comments or questions from you? Any issues with the waivers?
I have no objections to the waivers.
All right, any other board comments or questions? If not, I guess we're looking at resolution 13, right? It is. Misplaced it. So 1213.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve resolution 1213?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 4 on our agenda is consider a waiver of land development for CSC Sugar, 200 Rock Run Road. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is for CSC Sugar, tax map parcel 13-28-62-2. They are looking to construct a truck scale with ramp and a loading dock canopy. Tonight, representing the applicant is Mr. Doug Maloney.
Thank you.
Maloney?
You have before you a plan which doesn't show a whole heck of a lot because this is a very, very minor proposal for improvements. Basically, what we're proposing to build is a truck scale located at the east end of the CSC Sugar refining site, and also a canopy over a loading dock. CSC Sugar, there's been some mention about jobs. This is a great job builder, frankly. We're going to be running 2 shifts, 24/7. Daytime shift is going to be about 16 people. Nighttime shift is going to be 10 to 12 people, and it's going to go full blast. Frankly, we've been pleased to find out that, as you may recall, you granted conditional use approval to this use at this facility. In November of 2011, we occupied about half of this building. Within the last couple of months, the other tenant on the other half of the building has vacated. We took over the lease, and we're now proposing to expand the operation so that we can have at least storage of sugar in tote, some sort of woven nylon bags at this facility. So we've already expanded before we even opened. We have another warehouse at 80 Roebling Road, which is a bulk storage warehouse of granular sugar. Basically, this operation just converts granular sugar into liquid sugar form. So it's a neat operation, brings a lot of jobs, and it's a very clean operation as well. One of our main buyers is Snapple Sugar, which, as you may know, is made of the best stuff on earth, and some of that stuff is now made in Falls Township, where it will be in a few weeks. That's the project in a nutshell. Simply a truck scale. And our buyers, even though we measure this stuff as it's being pumped into the tankers very precisely in-house, our buyers are still operating under the sort of old school. They want a weigh slip from a certified scale. So we're going to put one on site, and that's what the truck scale and its associated ramp, so that the trucks can back up and get weighed and then pull off. Our canopy, we're going to be having a lot of trucks loading the granular sugar into our facility. Our guys, and also pumping it out. People are going to be working on the loading docks a lot. So we're proposing a canopy over existing loading dock. All of the improvements are in the already improved area of the site. It's all on macadam already, so there really isn't much by way of land development. There are 3 waiver requests. One is a waiver with regard to street trees. 2 is with regard, which obviously aren't going to be affected by this proposal at all. 2 deals with providing surveyed contours or topographical information on the plans. We're asking for a waiver from that as well because of the nature of the application. And finally, a waiver from the requirement to include natural features on the plan. Frankly, there aren't any natural features at this particular site because it's already been developed. So we'd ask that, I don't believe Mr. Sullivan has any problem with those waiver requests. And we've reviewed the proposed resolution, and we're fine with the terms of the proposed resolution. There are no comment letters from both TPD on traffic issues and from the fire marshal. So I should say also that in addition to Mr. Clemson, our excellent engineer who's prepared these plans, we have several people from representatives from CSC Sugar if you have any questions at all about the project.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll go to board members, and well, first, Mr. Sullivan, I know Mr. Maloney spoke for you a little bit and said you had no issues with any of the waivers. I'll give you a chance to speak your piece.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I have no objections to the waivers at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Galloway, comments or questions?
Just that we welcome the company into the township. We look forward to seeing all the people that you're going to employ down there.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, I agree with what Brian said, and also, of course, I'm going to come back to my same comment about the street trees, and if there can be any arrangement made for a donation of equivalent value of the trees, and we'll plant them elsewhere in the township. Our Arbor Commission's been doing an excellent job. We want to keep going.
Okay, that's acceptable.
Yes, Mr. Maloney and his client would like to make a voluntary contribution that will be worked out later.
Yes.
Of course, completely voluntary.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It won't be coming out of my pocket, however.
Mr. Dents?
No comments or questions.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
No, and I have none. It's a very simple plan. It makes sense. So comments or questions, aside from Mr. Kinney's obligatory, if there's jobs, pass it. Anybody else have any comment? No?
Is there anybody else here?
All right, so this would be Resolution 1214. Hearing no other comments from board members, none from the public. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 1214?
So moved.
Seconded.
Very well. Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, item 5 is to consider a proposal from Traffic Planning and Design, which is the township's traffic engineer, for Mill Creek Road and Levittown Parkway traffic signal design. Mr. Gray.
Township received a letter from Mr. Jerry Baker, Traffic Planning Design, on May 16, 2012, regarding the proposal for the traffic signal design services, as mentioned at Mill Creek Road and Levittown Parkway. The cost of this proposal is $25,650. The board is asked to consider this proposal. In addition, Mr. Jerry Baker from TPD is here to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay. Mr. Baker, if you wouldn't mind, what you're being asked to do essentially is the engineering for renovations to that traffic signal, something we've done at other major intersections in the township. Could you just give us a summary of how those signals will be, the changes will happen next year, but what
Correct.
changes are can we expect?
All right. Well, what the proposal was for was to basically do a complete renovation of all the traffic signal equipment. First, we would do a survey. Actually, T&M would do the survey, and we would pass that cost directly on to the township with no markups, or you could deal directly with T&M if you so choose. There would be ADA ramp design. So we're looking at 8 ramps, 2 per corner, according to the new, well, not really new, but they're being strictly enforced now, the ADA requirements. So we would be doing that design. Then there's also the actual design of the traffic signal. That would include traffic counts for 12 hours at the intersection, analyzing it, determine if there's any phasing changes needed or anything of that sort, and then preparing the permit for submission to PennDOT and actually obtaining the permit. And then the last part of the proposal was to actually prepare the construction documents, review them, the bids and sorts of things of that sort, and then oversee the construction as well.
All right, so we're looking at New signals, LED, I'm assuming, or something?
Yeah, everything would be LED. To be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure what's involved. I guess we'll determine more of that when we get into the design. There would be pedestrian accommodations with the PED buttons. I'm imagining there'll be countdown timers and the handman indicators. Probably emergency preemption.
Right.
And whatever the township's signal requirements are, we would include all those.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
Well, I have to ask whether traffic planning and design would make a contribution towards street trees. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. It sounded like I thought I at least would try it, you know. Why not? More trees, power to the trees. No, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
Mr. Rocco?
So this proposal is for Mill Creek and Levittown Parkway,
That's correct.
and there isn't sidewalks there now. We would still install ramps?
Yes, I mean, that's really part, PennDOT would require that now. I mean, anytime, it's kind of a strange thing, but that's just the way we're going. I mean, anytime you do any work at a traffic signal, you have to make sure that you update all the pedestrian accommodations to be ADA compliant.
Right.
In the past, we might have just posted a sign that said no pedestrians, and we'd get away with it that way. But that's just not the way we're going anymore. They want pedestrian accommodations basically everywhere. And because, you might have a pedestrian going down the shoulder of the road, they need to cross somehow. Or maybe in the future, there might be sidewalk tied into it. I mean, even it's to the point now, even if you were to mill and overlay a road and you took the existing crosswalk out, that's considered a modification of the crosswalk. And you could be made to install ADA compliant ramps at every corner of the intersection just because you happen to mill the crosswalk.
Yeah,
So-
because I, at this point, don't consider it a crosswalk there,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's kind of like
That
in the
was,
middle
yeah,
of...
that was my question. too.
Especially with countdown
Right.
timers.
Right, I was trying to think.
I don't even know, maybe we don't need the countdown timers,
Right.
but I think we would be required to put the ramps in. Again, PennDOT's very strict on this anymore.
All right, well, if PennDOT requires it, then...
And if they don't, we won't do it.
Yeah, or
if
maybe
the-
it's the right thing to do down the road if we're,
Right.
plan on tying it into the walk that's going to the park. It ends at, I think, one of the Pinewood entrances, so,
Right.
but that's just one of many.
Yeah.
So-
Right. I'm all. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done, so, thank you.
And the other thing I'll add to that too, in the past, we would put a typical section on a plan just showing the typical dimensions for a handicap ramp. And the contractor would basically just follow that typical drawing. But it's to the point anymore where we actually have to engineer the entire ramp, indicate all the slopes. You have to have the detectable warning surfaces and all that. So it's really involved anymore. And they'll go out there with a smart level and they'll check it. And if it's not right, you tear it out and you do it again.
The other, I was going to ask that question Mr. Rocco asked. The other question I have is that intersection I know is also the border between Falls and Bristol Township. And so I'm wondering if, I think two of the corners are Falls, and I think the other two corners are Bristol Township. So I'm curious, and I know you don't have to answer that now, but and how that would work in terms of us paying to put handicap ramps in a different township. So it's something we're going to have to tackle, I guess, when we get to it. But as you said, this is really just to study the whole intersection, see what needs to be done. But those are some things that we have to think about.
Right, the construction would be the next phase to determine how you're going to pay for it. And I don't know what your agreements are with Bristol Township as far as maintenance goes. I don't know if you split those costs or if one township oversees it or
Yeah,
what.
I don't know if we have any agreements, to be quite honest with you. So, but, okay. So this is really just looking at all the construction, all the bid process, and this actually would take you through the construction phase. This isn't just a preparation. This would even go through next year when the construction's happening. We're paying basically you up front, is that right?
Well, you wouldn't be paying us up front. You would just be approving it up front. We'd bill you as the
Yeah, that's
work's
what I meant.
completed.
We're approving it up front. All right,
Yes.
So, okay. Okay. Any other board comment?
Is this something we have to do, or we just know the equipment's old and?
I believe this is part of Mr. Arneo's plan to just update traffic signals every year. He takes on different projects, and this is the one that
Right.
that's coming up next. And I believe, the plan is to design it this year because it's going to take, it's hard to say, but at least 6 months, maybe 9 months to get approval from PennDOT. And then the idea is that it would be, you would have approvals by the next construction season, and then in the year 2013, you could actually implement the improvements.
Got it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, one question. We do have this in our budget, correct?
This was budgeted
Yeah,
for 2012, yes.
Yeah.
Just the engineering portion.
Okay. All right. Any public comment needed? One hand. Motion to open public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have to come all the way up there. You can hear me or repeat if you want. We're at the Willowwood section in that end, and then you have the Ukrainian church and so on.
Correct. Correct.
Why would we be paying for the whole study?
The intersection, in terms of where the lights are, where the power's coming in, there are signals that we're paying for, the electricity probably coming through the township, and so it's an issue of, we're on the hook for it. But certainly we can, in terms of putting ramps in on another township's property. Mr. Mariani's question is if half the intersections Bristol Township, half the intersections Falls Township, why are we paying for it to get done? I think this is something that we're looking for in all these cases. Really, we saw it with Tyburn Road and New Falls. We've replaced the signals at Trenton Road, and Penn Valley, and New Falls. These major intersections, Mr. Arneo is, and it's been going on for years, like as Mr. Baker said, looking to upgrade emergency backup for if power goes out, the lights don't die. Looking at emergency preemption for police, fire, and rescue, so that the lights change and allow them to get there quicker. It's something that we've been doing for a long time. But I think certainly we can start looking at this, and the issue of what's in Bristol Township and what's in Falls is something we'll have to look at. And I'm sure as you're doing the survey and Mr. Sullivan's giving you the data, we'll be able to have a better idea of what exactly is where.
Right.
And then but we have to find that out first. So. So we're looking at this point, an amount of $25,650 for the design and bidding, and also construction observation for TPD for the Mill Creek Road and Levittown Parkway traffic signal. Is there a motion from the board or thoughts from the board at this time?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this isn't a resolution, right? We're just approving
Correct, just the amount,
the amount of $25,650, the traffic planning and design.
Seconding.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Callaway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Baker. All right, item 6 is consider awarding township insurance policy for the period of June 18th to June 2012 to June 18th, 2013, general liability and public liability. Mr. Gray?
Township received quotes for insurance from Jerry Vaughn for the upcoming insurance period June 18, 2012 and ending June 18, 2013. Vaughn Insurance solicited quotes from 5 separate insurance groups. Of the 4 insurance groups provided complete quotations. They are as follows: National Casualty, $386,805. Travelers, $296,016. Trident/MRM, $402,545. And Glatfelder Municipal Program, $356,389. Travelers insured the township for 6 of the last 10 years. Last year, the township paid $264,802 to travelers for the insurance policy. If the township were to choose the travelers group this year, it would result in an increase of 10.5% over the prior year. As a comparison between other municipalities, Falls Township has been and continues to be historically lower in terms of the premium cost. This time the board is requested to consider travelers for the general insurance package for the period June 18th, 2012 through June 18th, 2013.
Okay. And the memo we have from Mr. Vaughn notes that part of the reason for the increase, well, two of the reasons for the increases are that two of our buildings, this building and the senior center, were essentially undervalued, and so they were not insured at the amounts they should have been. And also, after a lot of the tornadoes that have struck the Midwest over the past year or so, particularly the one in Joplin, Missouri area, according to Mr. Vaughn, insurance companies are now really starting to be very, very careful with the rates they charge and being much more diligent in making sure that that properties are insured at the proper amount. And that's another cause for the increase. Comments or questions from board members for Mr. Gray? Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, I just noticed that the comparison with the other townships in the area and how much more some of them are paying than we are. So I'm impressed with that, and I understand why there would be an increase, and it's good to know that we're going to insure for the full replacement cost. Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, I was wondering whether the increase, Mr. Vaughn also said, the increase in the insurance premium, Mr. Vaughn also says in recent months insurance market has changed dramatically. I don't know if that relates to what you were just talking about. The insurance companies will no longer fight for business and are raising premiums substantially. And Mr. Vaughn isn't here, so I'd like to ask, what's the root cause of not fighting for business? I don't know whether you, Mr. Gray, have any comment on this. I mean, I know it's anybody's guess in a certain way, but are they just raising rates because they can, or?
Rates are high and low. I know that 10 years ago, our rates were around 200,000. They went up over 400,000 or 500,000, maybe about 5-6 years ago. They have been coming down. Now we are starting to see a trend where they're starting to go back up. One of the instances, as Mr. Harvey mentioned last year, the storms, the tornadoes that occurred out in Joplin really hurt this particular insurance carrier, Travelers.
This particular carrier, okay.
Yes, so
that makes...
they're getting tighter with their premiums. Unfortunately, it's not just falls, it's all around.
But I see that we're still paying less than we did 5 years ago.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No, no questions.
Mr. Rocco?
No, I have no questions.
Any public comment? Seeing no hands. All right, so the recommendation of the administration, as well as Mr. Vaughn, who's been doing our insurance for quite a while, is to re-up with Travelers for our general liability, public liability, from June, essentially from tomorrow to a year from now, in the amount of $296,016.
Mr. Chairman, I do have actually one last question.
Sure.
Mr. Vaughn says Township can offer their own evidence of the appropriate replacement cost of the two buildings. I don't know whether we want to go through that exercise, or are we just taking their word for it in terms of the value? They're talking about this Township building and the senior center.
Yeah, they have some people who are coming out, I think it's later this week, to look at the two buildings. It's going to be $5 million. If it turns out to be a lower dollar amount, we could get a refund on the additional $7,000. So hopefully we'll have an answer within a week.
But they've already made a determination that we're undervalued, correct?
Yeah,
So-
that's
but now
correct. But it's possible it could come in lower. But we're not going to go any higher than what this dollar amount is right now.
And who is coming out to buy?
Travelers.
But they've already done it once, they're doing it again?
No,
They
they
have
haven't.
not, this is just their guess, you mean?
That's a
The
mess.
first was
Yeah.
their guess?
Yes.
Okay.
They had to come out and do a physical tour. Actually, they did the tour of the building today here, and I think they're going to do the senior center later this week. So,
So I guess my question is, well, I guess we'll wait to see what they say and then
Yeah.
determine whether we think those are the correct values or not. Because, I mean, we could have them appraised as well.
right. But if anything, at least we'll get a refund. So hopefully we'll get that if it happens.
So
thank
it
you.
won't go higher than this.
Mhm.
All right, so we have nothing to lose having somebody come out and take a look at the two buildings, and if it goes lower, it goes lower. If not, then it doesn't go any higher than what we're doing right now.
Just based off the square footage?
Not anymore, apparently.
No.
All right,
It's
so,
not just an appraisal of the building, it's the replacement value, and that's the difference between appraising something for the purpose of selling it or
Selling,
purchasing it, and for replacing it if there is a total loss or a partial loss. And that's why we would have to go out and, if we wanted to argue it, we'd have to have a complete evaluation done on the building. We'd have to get, to determine what we believe the replacement value would be. But it may not be in our best interest. It may be in the short term cost effective, but not in the long term in our best interest, because if there was a total loss, we would be at the lower value that we said it was, as opposed to the higher value than Travelers may be saying it is. So hopefully it'll never come into play, but that's why, that's what they're finding, is that a lot of things are undervalued, and then it's costing them money.
Well, that's what happened in Joplin, right?
Yes.
All those properties,
Yep.
they couldn't replace them.
No, and then when they had to try to start replacing them, the costs were astronomical and they were losing significant amounts of money.
It was a double tragedy.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Okay. So again, looking at Travelers, $296,016 for 2012 to 13. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Callaway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Item 7 is to consider a resolution, the hiring of a new police officer, Christopher Iacono, who I believe just graduated actually from the police academy. I was talking to the police chief yesterday, and according to the chief, Mr. Iacono was #1 in this class, and #1 pretty much right across the board in all categories. And so he's chosen Falls Township. He is not local. I think he believes from Delaware County, but he would like to come to work in Falls Township, and the chief and the members of the police administrative team who have interviewed him were significantly impressed, and so they have entered his name as a candidate to replace an officer who resigned in was it December?
December.
In December. Okay, so Mr. Gray, I don't know if I stepped on anything you were going to say, or
No, that's fine.
okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway,
No questions.
Mr. Snipes.
What would the effective hire date be?
Believe tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Oh,
Yeah.
tomorrow, right,
Tomorrow.
that's what I was,
Yeah.
and he obviously has fulfilled all the requirements and,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that's it.
Mr. Dents?
Nope.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. All right, any public comment? No? All right, this would be 1215, right? Resolution 1215?
12:15.
Actually, I'm sorry, one
Sure,
thing.
yeah.
Just to clarify, this is a replacement police officer. We're not adding to the force.
Correct. Yes, correct. Yeah, as Officer Officer McCaffrey, who resigned in December, and Mr. Iacono would replace him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's right.
The interruption there.
Okay, any, okay. All right, there's a motion then to approve Resolution 12-15.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, item 8 is consider authorizing notice of intent to award bid for the Penn's Grant Tennis Court. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township received a letter from Mr. Jim Sullivan at T&M dated June 14th regarding the Penn's Grant tennis courts. T&M reviewed the bid submitted to Falls Township and publicly opened on June 13th, 2012 for the project with the following results. One bid was received from Associated Paving Contractors, Inc., the bid amount $117,750. Based on the bid evaluation, Associated Paving Contractors is the lowest responsible bidder. However, based on the documents provided in their bid package and our conversations with them after the T&M had with them after the bid opening, it is evident that Associated Paving Contractors will not be able to meet the Falls Township responsible contractors ordinance requirements. Therefore, it is recommended that the board reject the bid and authorize the Township Engineer's Office to re-advertise the new bids.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
Are there details about why they did not meet the responsible contractors ordinance?
No real details, they just don't meet our requirements. And we only received one competitive bid, so we thought it'd be better to go out and try to get more bids.
Any idea why we only received one bid?
There were 3 or 4 plan holders, and for whatever reason, we only received one bid.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
Just so I understand in the future, if the lowest bidder is awarded and doesn't meet our requirements, do we automatically give it to the next lowest bidder? Or do we have to re-advertise?
If there was one, yes.
Okay.
We'd then have them go through the process.
And again, I think Mr. Gray may have misspoken slightly when he referred to Associated Paving as the lowest responsible bidder. They are not a responsible bidder. Since they do not meet the qualifications or the criteria of our ordinance, they do not qualify as a responsible bidder. So at any time when you have someone who is not a responsible bidder, you move to the next bid in line, who, if that entity is the lowest responsible bidder.
I think the word you used was responsive. Was that it?
Well,
Lowest responsive.
sometimes those words are used interchangeably, but they don't meet our ordinance, therefore they don't qualify, therefore we can't award it to them.
Right, so do we normally do a background check before opening the bids, or is that something we've done in the past?
We do not pre-qualify
Pre-qualify.
bidders for any work here in the township.
What part of the bid documents are required to prove their?
As part of the bid documents, they're required to submit and answer a checklist of questions to determine whether or not they not only comply with our ordinance, but comply with all state and if applicable, federal regulations regarding anything from prevailing wage to making sure they have not been cited for defaulting on a job or using illegal immigrants on a job or anything along those lines.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What did we budget for this project?
$120,000.
Okay. All right. All right, so we have the recommendation of the township engineer and the township manager to reject the bid from Associated Pavings Incorporated. And by doing that, we'll be automatically reauthorizing advertisement, correct?
Yes.
So we don't have to do 2 motions. So, public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion to reject the bids from Associated Pavings?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Turn it over to Sullivan.
All right, the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the township also received a letter from Mr. Sullivan at T&M June 13th regarding the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. T&M has reviewed the bids submitted to the township, publicly opened on June 13th for this project. 2 bids were received. First one was Bucksmont Excavating, Inc., in the bid amount of $605,040. And the second one, Landmark Construction Services, in the amount of $643,500. Mr. Sullivan, would you care to comment on the issue?
Yes, the low bidder is only a couple $100,000 over the budgeted amount. And the estimated amount that was provided by our office. We contacted a culvert supplier prior to issuing these bids for, receiving bids back, and their price was somewhere in the neighborhood of $135,000 delivered to the site. When we got the bids, both bidders had that line item at over $300,000. So we think that's where the problem is. I guess we budgeted around $365,000, or not budgeted, but actually estimated, because this wasn't in the budget. So we're thinking it's something around a $400,000 job. The culvert people agree with us. These two bidders did not. So we would respectfully request that you reject these bids and let us go out to bid again. There's a possibility we'll break it into two different specifications, one for actually procurement of the culvert. The township would go out for bids and buy the culvert, and then go out for an installation specification and bid for someone to install it. And if the only problem was the fact that they wanted an extra $200,000 for the culvert, we'll save that money in the bid.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No comments.
Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, I remember we discussed the need to replace the culvert. Could you remind me once again of the state of the culvert? I mean, I know we discussed it. It's put in the 50s, 60s?
Yeah, it's at least 40 years old and maybe more. The what they're called, the corrugated metal pipe culverts have deteriorated to a point where the culvert has no bottom to it, and it's exposed to the stream flow, and it causes erosion, and that causes the culvert to collapse. The pipes will just eventually crush and disappear, and that's kind of how we found the problem. One of the backhoes driven by the Public Works guys drove up onto the curb to make a turn, and the sidewalk collapsed.
There was some cracking. Yeah.
Fortunately, we didn't lose the backhoe or the operator. Right now, the culvert is basically a one lane. It's two lanes, but the most affected travel lane is still coned off and will be shut down until such time as we replace the culvert. We were hoping to get this done prior to the school year, but with these bids, that's not going to happen.
Okay. That was my next question. My next question was estimate on the time frame. So we're moving into the fall now, you think?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
So the plan will be for us to purchase the culvert ourselves and then just have bid on the labor?
Yes.
Are we able to do that, or would they go bid on the culvert? We can't just go purchase the culvert, can we do that?
No, it would have to be, it would
I would
have
have to
to
go out to
be
bid as well.
They don't have those on state bid lists, culverts on them? No.
I doubt it very
Okay.
seriously.
We'll check into that, but probably not the case.
Okay, that's all I had.
Mr. Rocco?
Now, the question I have is about the timing. I know when we talked a few months ago, it was about, doing it when the school's closed so the buses aren't an issue, but I guess it is what it is.
Right. There's basically a 5-week lead time on the culvert. Installation, we'd give them about 30 days. We could have got that done, but not now.
Okay, that's all I had.
The two companies, Bucksmont Excavating, Landmark Construction, do we have any experience with either one of them? Have they ever done work in the township before?
Landmark has, yes. They did the Challenger field, actually.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, because we didn't really have much of an issue with them, I think, with that.
Right.
So it is surprising. I'm not sure why, like you said, they would have added a couple extra $100,000. It's, but they're obviously not going to get the business unless they want to bid again and come in a lot closer to what it should be, I guess. All right, so we're looking at rejecting the two bids for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement. Is there any public comment? One hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I think it's a wise idea for buying the culvert yourself. But the question I would have is, did you ask these guys why they? I mean, it's very obvious when you're doing a bid of that size, you can call and ask for how much is this product.
Right.
Is there a reason they did that? I mean, there might be some hidden cost. Like even if you buy the culvert, what if these guys are still $200,000 higher? I mean, did they say why they did it? Or?
I'm not sure. I know Mr. Sullivan is going to have conversations with them. I'm not sure if he's had them yet.
No, we haven't had those conversations yet, but we did ask the supplier what information they provided to the contractors.
Okay.
And the number was still the same he gave us.
Okay. And why, I guess the other question I have is if it's I guess because of the dollar value, you can't just go buy this culvert?
Correct.
Yeah, and it's not, again, it's not something that's on a state bid list. It's not like a police vehicle.
Yeah, I understand you don't want
backhoe.
to, why can't you just buy it? I mean, it's at the supplier's place, you're buying.
Like
it's-
anything else, you have to bid it.
You have to bid it.
go out and bid for it.
How many
so-
suppliers of that are around here that would actually?
Don't know.
There's at least 2 or 3 suppliers of culverts.
Locally?
Since it's not sole source, we have to go out to bid.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing too. It's
All
not, it's not one person who makes, culverts that.
Correct.
So.
Correct. I just didn't know if there's that many local suppliers of culverts around. I didn't know if they're, But it makes sense to take that out of the equation and just get the labor cost, because then you could hide numbers in the labor cost, but everyone's going to, whoever's going to be the cheapest one's going to get the job. But
Right.
I was just curious why. I didn't know about having to bid on the culverts themselves. Thank you.
Yep, sure. All right, motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, then, is there a motion to reject the bids for the South Olds Boulevard culvert replacement?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
and members of the board, can I assume that since we are not meeting again for another month, that if it is determined that we can bid this job in two separate parts, the purchase of the culvert as one part and the installation of the culvert as a second, that the board will authorize the
Re-advertisement.
Township administration to re-advertise it as two separate bids?
Is that the pleasure of the board?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right, minutes for May 15th, 2012.
Mr. Chairman, are there two different versions of the minutes, or only one? I got two copies. I don't know if that was because they were.
Believe there's just one. You got the extra. You got the
extra.
bonus.
You weren't here.
Read them
Yeah,
twice.
you weren't here. They just wanted to make sure you got a chance to read through them. Comments or questions, corrections to the minutes as they are presented. Mr. Galloway?
None.
Okay, Mr. Snipes, I'm assuming you'll be abstaining since you weren't here.
Correct.
I have no comments or questions or concerns. Mr. Dents?
No, no comments or questions.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Engineers report for May of 2012. Mr. Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Quaker Penn Park Babe Ruth baseball field.
The what?
The Quaker Penn Park Babe Ruth baseball field
That's what I thought you said.
is substantially complete still. The fence, it seems to be taking a little bit of time, but I'm assured that the fence will be completely in place at the end of this week. So I'm sure by next week it will be. The contractor has been out there. He's been doing some work on the grading to make sure everything's okay. It looks very good, actually. So we think he did a nice job.
That's not holding up anyone from playing on the field.
Absolutely not.
Right.
No one can play on the field until next year anyway.
Yeah, it does look nice. It's coming along well. I'm down there every morning.
I'm well aware of that. The road program has finally picked up its pace. Vernon Road, Winding Way, and most of Allendale, I believe, have been reconstructed and are under binder. There's two more roads to go. They should be close to getting done. Alden, we're putting in a bus lane right in front of the Valley Day School. That is under construction. We expect substantial completion on the road program probably the week after the 4th of July. So July 9th, in that week, substantial completion, meaning that most everything is done. All the paving will be done, and we'll be working on punch list items. We received a letter today from Bucks County Office of Community Development, and there's been a finding of no significant impact for an environmental study, environmental review finally for the senior center. So the funds will be authorized for release by Bucks County office on July 6th, and on August 6th, 31 days later, hopefully HUD will release the funds and they will then become available to the township for use. But at that point, we'll have to go through all of the usual requirements from the county as far as pre-construction meetings and discussions with the contractor on certified payroll and a lot of paperwork kind of things. So perhaps by September, we'll be under construction.
Well, that's a triumph.
Learn to be very patient.
Yes. Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan regarding his engineer's report? Mr. Galloway?
No question.
Mr. Snipes?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
No, but thank you for the report and putting the the new stuff in red. I think it's helpful. There's a lot of stuff on that list, so thank you.
Okay. And I'm assuming, looking at your your information regarding the 2012 road program, at our next meeting in July, roughly a month from now, we'll be able to bid, hopefully to award a bid. I think a bid opening is July 11th.
Yes, we will have hopefully a recommendation for notice of intent to award the 2012 road program. At the August meeting, we'll probably need Mr. Gray to be authorized to finalize the award, since the contract review period probably won't be done by then. And then if all that comes together, we'll be under construction early September.
Okay. All right. Yeah, certainly, good news to hear that after only 13 months of review, the county has decided that the senior center, which has been there for 30 years, is not damaging the environment, or 40 years. So, hopefully, I know the people down there have waited a very long time, and it's certainly been a trial for us to have to go through the process. Problems in Washington holding up the budget last year. Delayed 6 to 8 months, I think, probably, the whole process, and then certainly with the county not moving as quickly as we would have hoped that they would have moved. I know Commissioner Marseglia had a lot to do with getting them to start moving at a more rapid pace, so we thank her, and hopefully we can might have to be make a phone call to her and see if this can move a little faster yet. So, but. As it is good news. Would have been better to have it last year, but it's good news. So thank you for the report. Is there a motion to accept the engineer's report dated June 13th, 2012?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bill list for today, June 19th, 2012, $2,134,088.89. Of that, 2.1 million, approximately 1.1 million, is salaries and health care. An additional almost 105,000 for a backhoe for public works. I think roughly 323,000 for the road program. A couple of new vehicles, $27,000 for one vehicle, I believe, for public works. And there was another sort of big ticket item in here. Some computer upgrades for the police, and just computer upgrades for the township, almost $45,000. Babe Ruth Field, $22,000. So a lot of the big items are items that people hear quite a bit about. $18,000 in fuel. That's been coming down, thankfully, but as fuel prices have dropped. But and the big ticket items, and obviously is a very long list, bill list, 22 pages, basically, of all kinds of things that are being spent by the township. Board members have a chance to go through this and ask questions of the manager and the finance director, and everything's very clearly stated if anybody ever wanted to get a copy of the bill list. Comments or questions from board members regarding the bill list for Mr. Gray? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No questions.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion to pay the bills? $2,134,088.89.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, executive session. I don't believe we have a need for an executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, just two items tonight. First item is in regard to Peruzzi, 160 Lincoln Highway. Peruzzi Automotive Group has requested release of the escrow for their account located at 160 Lincoln Highway in the amount of $3,703.96. This request has been reviewed also by T&M Associates. Board is asked to consider the release of $3,703.96 for Peruzzi Automotive Group.
Okay. Okay, comments or questions regarding Peruzzi Automotive Group escrow release?
No.
We're done.
No.
Okay. Is there a motion then to release the escrow amount, $1,703.96.
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Roscoe?
Yes.
Just a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department. The Park and Rec Department continues to accept memberships for the Pinewood Pool. The summer concert series is held every Sunday evening at the Falls Township Community Park at the Phase 1 Pavilion from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If anyone has any questions regarding any Park and Rec matters, please go to the Falls Township website, www.fallstwp.com, or call the Park and Rec Department at 215-949-9000, extension 220. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Moves us to board comment. We'll begin, just go, can I go random here? Mr. Dents?
Ah. Yes, caught me off guard.
Sorry. Well, you sat forward. I thought maybe you were getting ready.
The only comment I'm going to have, we have a resignation, we have several resignations from the zoning hearing board. Rachel Hall resigned and Scott Milliken resigned. Tom Miles has been the alternate on the zoning board for, I think, 2 years now. And he requested to be appointed to one of the permanent terms, or to fill one of the vacant seats. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint Tom Miles to, I guess, Scott Milliken's seat on the zoning hearing board.
I'll second it.
I think that is a resolution, correct, Mr. Gray?
Yes,
So it'll be 12, or we up to 16?
16.
12, 16.
All right, so 12, 16, Mr. Tom Miles. It's important that I say that first. You'll understand in a
Yeah.
minute why. Mr. Tom Miles to the seat vacated by Mr. Milliken.
There are 2 seats available.
Right.
One is for Rachel Hull and one is for Milliken, Mr. Scott Milliken. Scott Milliken's expires December 31st, 2014.
Okay. All right, so motion was made and seconded, right?
I second it,
I
yes.
thought so. Okay. All right, so motion, any comments or questions from board members regarding Mr. Miles' appointment to the vacated seat?
No.
Okay. I will be abstaining. For the record, Mr. Tom Miles is my cousin, so I'm going to be abstaining from that. Okay. So motion was made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, and one abstention.
We also have a letter of interest from Dan Miles, no relation to Tom Miles.
Or me.
Or you. Dan has lived in the township since 1998. He's a contractor. I know Dan. I know Mr. Rocco knows Dan. I think most of us know Dan. And I think he'd be well suited to sit on the zoning board. And I'm going to make another motion to appoint Dan Miles to Rachel Hull's seat. I guess that would be resolution 1217.
17.
I'll second it.
And that would expire December 31st, 2012.
Okay.
All right, so motion made and seconded for Mr. Dan Miles to fill the seat vacated by Ms. Hull. Comments or questions? Board members? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
And that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
No comment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Galloway?
No comment.
Mr. Rocco?
No comment, thank you.
Oh, jeez. All right.
It's all on you.
On me, that's right, yeah. It's just a couple things. First off, I want to wish Happy Father's Day, a couple days late, but Happy Father's Day to the fathers here in this room, and the fathers and grandfathers here in the township. Also want to make people aware, I know I've had a couple of concerns over the past several weeks or so about the website, the Falls Township website, some of the meetings not being aired on time, and I know there were some problems with the website, and I believe Mr. Markey has that sorted out. Is that correct, Mr. Gray?
That's correct.
All right, and so I believe we should be back up and running in terms of having the meetings up there promptly and having them in their proper place and everything aired and everything should be working a little bit better than it has been in the past. Apologize for any inconvenience that might have caused people over the past few weeks, but I know we are aware of it and we're working on it, and hopefully it's rectified by now. And lastly, as is typical with the Board of Supervisors, in summer months we go down to one meeting a month. in July and August, to accommodate people on vacation, not just board members, but professionals and staff members and everybody else. And business usually does slow down in summer months. Obviously, the past 2 months we've had one meeting a month. So at this point, I'll ask board members if we are in favor of canceling the first meeting in July and the first meeting in August, and then obviously just keeping our second meeting, the third Tuesday in July, third Tuesday in August would be the normal board meetings. Does that meet everybody's approval?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Gray, you can post that information, and I know it's been tradition for, before I got here, so it shouldn't really surprise anybody, but, and I believe that's it. I thank everybody for a very good meeting, and it seems like a while since we've been here, but I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.